Okay, we'll begin. Okay, so last time I looked at some problems of resource contention, and today also I intend to do basically more of the same. But before that, first thing I don't know whether you know this, so let me tell you. There is this web page for the summer program. Okay. And there are some papers and all which Arvind and Ramanujam have put up, so you can look at that. And for my lecture yesterday, what are the okay? They are fairly old papers actually. So you have okay. So this is I think about 1968 or so. So this is where the dining philosophers first appeared in print. And the other paper I don't remember, unfortunately. So this is on readers, writers. Okay, even the paper by Suhas Patil. This is not a paper. This is just a note somewhere. And so this is about 1981 or so. Let's see, I'll try to locate these papers and put them up. This is about 1971, this is also 1970s. So today I'm going to look at a paper by Leslie Lamport. So 1984. So this is a kind of survey talk which Lamport gave on this. So still quite far behind, but we are kind of slowly progressing towards the present. Here interested in more modern versions of these problems, then there is a paper called this is by, I'm sorry, but I don't remember her name, Marina, I think something like this. There's some long name, some long Greek name which I don't remember, but her first name is Marina, and Paul somebody. Yeah. So this is about 1997 or so. Okay, and the basic resource we are talking about here is frequency spectrum, right? So which is very current today also. So maybe you should have politicians instead of philosophers out there. So okay, so let me so in Leslie-Lamport's, maybe some of you have already seen this. So it basically consists of the following people. So there is Alice, then there is her cat, then there is Bob, and then there is his dog. How many of you have seen this? Nobody. Okay, so that's good. It's boring to have the same thing again. It's again a kind of basically it's again some kind of fable using which you can illustrate problems in distributed computing, right? Okay, so here is Alice. She lives in this house, and this is Bob. He lives here, and between their house there is a yard. Okay, and so both Alice's cat and Bob's dog like to take a walk in the yard. Okay, but unfortunately if both do so simultaneously, then disaster results. So the question is, how do you actually ensure, how do Alice and Bob ensure that only one of them is in the yard at any point of time, right? So let's have some simple solutions. I'm sure there are many simple solutions. I'll make the problem harder and harder so that you can't find simple solutions that easily, but there are many simple solutions to this. How will they ensure this? Yeah, let's say Alice's cat wants to go to the yard, then what kind of protocol should they follow?
Using binary semaphore.
There is no semaphore, there are only cats and dogs. So yeah, so and so just think of it as a normal problem between two human beings, right? So this is a long story. I mean, there'll be love, there'll be marriage, there'll be divorce, all kinds of things will happen in the story. But okay, so let's so we want to set up some protocol whereby these two can actually ensure this property, right? That the cat and the dog are not in the yard at the same time. Okay, so for instance, let's say that Alice has one window at least which looks here, and Bob has one window which looks here from the house into the yard. That's one possibility you can assume. Right, now what can you do?
They can have a board in the yard. It's fun when the dog is taking a walk, so if she looks up through the window, she doesn't let her cat in.
Good. So okay. So first thing is that let's say Alice looks to see if the dog is there. Okay, but this window is positioned in some strange way. So you can see about this much of the yard. Okay, but you can't see everything. Okay, so maybe if the dog is here, then she won't see the dog, right? So this is not. This is a solution which does not work. Okay, then okay, now let's change the. Okay, and the distance between this is quite far. So if you put up a board here, so here's a window, and you put up a board here, then Bob cannot see it, or at least, I mean, he may need a telescope to see it, right? But which he doesn't have at the moment. So, right? So that option we do not have. They're much simpler solutions. I'm sure you use them yourselves. So,
Like a colored flag. Suppose now Alice's cat is there in the yard and she puts up a red color flag. Even if it's far off, Bob will still be able to see the red color. So we know that the cat is there in the yard.
okay.
And if Bob's dog is there, he knows.
Okay. So I see. Okay, so basically she needs to put up some big flag out here, which, as you say, with some distinctive characteristic like color or something like that, which that guy can see, right? Okay. No, but I was thinking of a much simpler solution, which I don't know, none of you seem to be thinking about, which is that you should just call him on his mobile and check, but so there are, with human beings there are always a lot of possibilities. Here of course we are actually trying to model some mutual exclusion problem, so we will not allow all these things, but okay. So anyway, so this is what we assume, that there is one flag. Maybe this guy also has a flag, right, on his house. Now what do they do? What is the protocol they follow? Right. I mean, if he doesn't have a flag, then he has to come to Alice's house to lower the flag or something. So which is not a practical solution, right? So both of them have flags. One red flag, blue flag, whatever. Now what do you do? So what is Alice's protocol?
Flag is not up, then raise the red flag and send the cat out.
Okay. So you're saying raise. Oh, you're saying first look at that other flag. Okay. So check blue flag. Okay. If okay, then send cat. I should write this a little larger. Okay. Okay. Then that's not the end. Otherwise, the cat is going to be in the yard all the time. So we don't want that.
Then once the cat comes in, you know what
Okay. So yeah, and what is Bob's protocol? the symmetric thing, yeah. Okay, is this solution deadlock free?
Because both can put the flag at
Like at the same time.
No, that they cannot, because before putting, okay,
So they both see that. So both the cat and dog are not down. So they both see that the flags are down. So they think that okay, fine, the yard is free, and at the same time they might want the center cats also.
okay. So it's not a deadlock property, but you are violating mutual exclusion, right? That's what is happening. Okay. So what do we do at this point?
We will put up another flag as white flag to signal that I am going to, put up my green flag or blue flag. So now you should not put up the flag. There should be an intermediate signal process.
Yeah. Now see, the first thing is you check the red flag. Okay, fine. Then what? So instead I'll suggest the following, which is that you first raise the red flag. Okay, you just raise the flag. Then if whatever, no, this is raise the blue flag. If red flag not up, okay, then you are okay. But if red flag is up, in that case, lower blue flag and go back to this, right? And you can have a symmetric thing out here. Okay. We also assume that the process of raising the flag and all can take time, right? So you are raising the flag and then you check. Okay. And if the other person has put it, then you lower the flag. Okay. Is this okay? No. What is the problem with this?
If one raises the flag and the other person sees that it is raised, and he's also raised it at the same time, he'll lower it and they will also.
Okay.
Both will do the same.
Okay.
Both will keep doing the same thing.
Yeah. So now you have a deadlock, a live lock actually, because both are busy waiting, right? So this is this also does not work. Okay. So what do we do? So the problem for this solution is the same as the problem we saw yesterday. Okay, that it's a symmetric solution. Okay, and any symmetric solution is going to face this kind of difficulty. Okay, so you have to find some way of breaking the symmetry. Only then this solution will work. Yeah.
One flag in the middle of the yard, say, and if it's up, means the dog can come, and if it's low, means the cat.
But then it's a pain to go and raise it and lower it. You just want to sit in your house and do all this, right? So that's the purpose of having the two flags, that you are, and it's just outside your window. Let's say you just go pull it up. Sorry.
Like okay, same okay, sort of remote control. Like so, what I'm trying to say is okay, have some common signal sort of thing, which both can operate.
Yeah.
To attain mutual exclusion.
Yeah.
So okay, have a flag, only one flag, and for them, so have a remote control.
Yeah.
So the flag is in the middle or something, and there's no one in the yard. So if Alice wants to use it, the flag she can raise the flag, So, okay, and Bob wants to use it. Okay, if it is in the middle, then he can put it at the bottom.
Okay, so let's look at how this remote control will work. So the remote control is what? It's after all some computer, right? Right. So supposing both of them say they want to raise the flag and they both start at the same time. Right. So the problem does not go away. Okay, only the speed changes. So
You can change the protocol a bit. Like suppose when the box was there in the ground, and then it will be the next turn will be Alice. Like if Alice puts up his white flag, then Bob cannot bring his dog. In that case, because when Bob's dog will be there in the field, the next turn should be given to Alice. If Alice says that I want to bring my cat in the yard, then the priority will be going to Alice.
okay.
And if Alice does not put up his flag, then Bob can take the chance again.
Okay, I mean you are trying to be fair, but but we don't need a fair solution. But what you are saying is the right idea, which is that basically you give priority to one of them. Okay, so for instance, we can decide that priority is with Alice. Okay, so if both flags are so what Alice can do is basically Alice follows this protocol. Okay, if there is a blue flag, okay, then she does not do anything. But if the blue flag is not up, then she raises the red flag and sends the cat. That's okay. Whereas what this guy does is he first raises the blue flag, okay, and if the red flag is up, okay, then he lowers the blue flag, okay. Otherwise, he again raises the blue flag. Maybe at the end of this again checks. So, basically, at the beginning and at the end, Bob checks that the blue flag, the red flag is not up. Okay. If the red flag is up, he just retracts, I mean pulls down the flag and again tries. Okay. So this guy can be waiting, but Alice, once she sees that there is no blue flag, okay, she just goes ahead and does it. So that gives priority to Alice. So now if you want to be fair, then you can work out some strategy by which.
I think it's also starvation free. I mean, like if once once Bob dog is there, so the next priority will be going to Alice. If Alice don't want, then Bob will be getting. So alternatively, both will be getting one.
Sure, I agree. Yeah, but I am saying if you just want a solution, at least this solution is it guarantees mutual exclusion. That's the first property which we are looking at, okay, and it guarantees that there is no deadlock. Right. That's right. This is the main thing which we are looking for. Right. Now, yeah. So your point is that if the Alice's cat wants to go to the yard all the time, okay, then of course since she has priority, okay, then she will all the time be in the yard, okay, and Bob's dog will never get a chance, right? Okay, so but at least from my experience of cats and dogs, this does not happen. So so we can assume that in a real life situation this will work. This protocol will work. How do we prove that this guarantees mutual exclusion? And of course, it looks obvious, but even in obvious programs, sometimes you make mistakes. So you may not imagine some particular scenario. So how will you prove such a thing, that this guarantees such a thing? Right, and as usual we prove this by contradiction. So we suppose that mutual exclusion is violated, which basically means that both Alice and Bob have reached this state, okay, where the cat and the dog are both inside the yard, okay. But in order to reach this state, okay, what must have happened? So essentially just before sending this Bob checked that the blue flag was not down, sorry, the red flag was not down, okay, and the blue flag was up, and this guy checked that the blue flag was not there and the red flag was up, okay. Alice checked that, and both of these, but here we have the property that once the red flag is up, and the red flag is not lowered until the cat has come back, okay, right. So therefore we have that both these things cannot happen simultaneously, okay. You get that argument, what I am trying to say, right. Here it can be that the blue flag can go up and down, so we cannot guarantee anything, but here we know that once the red flag is up, then until the cat is back the red flag remains up, okay, right. So this is a permanent situation, okay, whereas this is a transient situation. So once you have a permanent situation, you just, once that thing happens, then it's always there, okay, and so it cannot be that this person would have seen the red flag not up, okay, because once it's up, that person always sees it. So such a thing cannot happen. Okay, very good. So this is the basic mutual exclusion problem. Well, so next, as I said, Alice and Bob marry, okay. So all the pets live together and the pets learn to like each other, right, and then there is, so this problem goes away, but then they divorce. So you have, again we are back to Alice and Bob, okay, and but what the judge does is awards custody of the pets to Alice, okay, and what Bob has to do is to feed them, okay, right. So, but unfortunately by now both the pets love Alice, okay, and they keep barking at Bob and they don't like him at all, right. So Bob says, I'll leave the food in the yard, then the pets can come and eat it, but he'll do so only when the pets are not there in the yard, okay, right. So we have now to set up a protocol for this problem, right. So what are the properties which we are looking for? That yeah, we also want the following, that right, meaning if he leaves the food there and the pets come there and don't eat it, he doesn't go and put the food again, right. He says they better eat it, only after that I'll do this. So
cat and dog can come and eat at the same time.
yeah, they now love each other, so right, and presumably they love the food also, so there is no problem, right. So this is the situation, right. So this is So this is of course producer-consumer problem. Right. It's the same problem which I asked you to think about yesterday. Okay, so you can think of this as being the 1-bit buffer. Right. What is the solution to this problem?
So can it happen that only one dog or either the cat or the dog can come and eat?
No.
Both will come and both will go.
Yeah, Alice released. She is too busy. She just releases them both, and they both come back together. Right. Yeah.
Bob should use some flag that when he wants to put the food in the yard, he puts on the flag, which will act as the semaphore, like wait condition. And then the dog can come out. After he puts his food there, he goes inside and lowers the flag. Then they can come and eat the food. And like after after some time, when they go inside again, you can put the flag on and put the food on the yard.
Okay. Where should the flag be?
On box, on B's house.
Okay. Supposing there is a flag here. Okay. So now what's your protocol?
But the problem is in the where to signal the consumer.
Anyone else?
Imagine that after dog and cat finish the food, they go inside. That have to imagine.
Yeah, at some point they'll go inside. Yeah. But how will Bob know that?
Can Bob find out whether this food is the plate or not from his phone? He has to go there and take it.
Sorry.
Can Bob find whether this food is a plate or not from his house itself?
No.
He has to.
Yes.
Like we are imagining.
Neither Alice nor Bob can find that out. Yeah.
Then we will use another flag on A's house.
Huh.
So when Bob put on his flag, and then he can go outside and put the food on the yard. And once he comes in, he lowers his flag. Then A put on his flag and leads the cat and dog. And once they finish up and come inside, then he lowers the flag.
Okay.
This was
No. What will Bob? So which flag are you talking about?
when Bob will put on his flag.
Okay. So Bob. So here is Bob's protocol. What is Bob blue? Is it? Okay. So Bob raises blue flag. Then
Bob raises his flag and then the puts his food there.
yeah. Enters yard. Puts food. Okay. So what is the guarantee that the cat and the dog are not in the yard at that time? So if there is some.
You will see that he is not using his blue flag is not up.
Okay, so we'll need some protocol for A also. So we'll worry about that, right? So enters the yard, puts food, then what comes back and lowers blue flag. Is that okay? And what does Alice do?
Alice will say that if the flag is up, he will not allow the dog and cat to go outside.
Which flag?
Bob's
Okay, so checks blue flag. Then
If it's then we won't allow the dog and cat to go outside.
okay, so let's say if not up, okay,
Not the. I couldn't read. If not the.
sorry, I'm sorry. If not sub, pets enter yard. Okay,
No, if not up, then he first puts up his own red flag.
okay, puts up red flag. Okay,
Then allows the dogs and the cats to go outside.
yeah. Then when they come back,
He rewards his flag.
okay, but then there has to be something about the red flag there, otherwise there is disaster waiting, right?
The previous case only.
We do all this, okay,
Yeah. For the food in the bowl, have a flag next to the bowl only.
okay,
So when there's Alice, when she lets her cats and dogs out, she comes, checks if there's food. If there's food, she puts the flag up. If there's no food, she puts that flag down. So
Okay.
when her other flag goes down, and when this flag is also down, Bob knows there's no one in the yard and there's no food also in the yard. So then he'll come out, put food, put the flag up. He'll raise his flag, come put food, and then raise that food flag up also.
I see. But the food, okay. So what are we assuming for this? Basically, we are assuming that food is in some fixed place, right? And that place is visible from both these windows, right? And there is a flag there. Okay. So, are you sure this guarantees deadlock freedom and starvation freedom and all these properties? Okay, let's see. So, so what are you saying here? Okay, so what does Alice do? First checks the blue flag. Okay, then if it's not up, raises the red flag. So Alice has priority. This is what we have decided. Then since so now it's not just the cat and the dog go away, go into the yard. Okay. Okay, but the cat and the dog might go there and find no food.
So only if the food flag is up, she
Ah,
can get cat out.
so yeah, but the food flag is the blue flag, no?
Another flag. Blue flag is
Okay, okay. No, I'm I can't manage all this. Okay, so let me tell you that there is a solution with one flag. Okay, so then so you only need one flag. Okay. So basically, there's a one-bit solution. Right. But to again to help you a little bit, this is a human solution and not so much a okay. So what we have is we have this flag here on Alice's house, okay, but there is a long string and the person who operates this flag is Bob, okay, but of course Alice can see the flag. Okay. Right. So, and Bob, when he pulls the flag, then he knows that it's up. Actually, Bob doesn't even need to see the flag, right? Because all Bob does is can maintain the information that I pulled the flag, I have not pulled the flag. Up, right? So this, okay. So this is all you need. Okay. So let's see what the solution is. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the color of the flag now is. Okay, so Bob first does not raise the flag. Bob first checks whether the flag. Right, this is Bob's protocol. Okay. So what is the property that this guarantees? So this is what we want, no? That the pet should not be there, right? So what we ensure is that flag is down implies that the pets are not there. Okay, this property we have to maintain at all. Then Bob is safe after that. Okay, right? Okay. Then what does Alice do? Um,
So this flag is operated by D. Bob.
okay, that's a good question. I'm actually not. We'll make Alice also operate the flag. Okay. Okay. So actually, what Lamport does is he says on the windowsill you have a Coke can. Okay, and this Coke can is tied with a string to this. Okay, so both can operate it actually. Right. So it's a shared variable. In other words. Okay. So what this Coke can. So what this guy does is. Okay, now we have to decide which one. Okay, pull string and topple scan. So can is down. Okay, then enters yard, puts food and comes back. Okay, but now the flag, now this is a can, so you can't put the can back. Okay, right. So what will Alice do? Okay, then Maybe this will work. I don't know.
So the can should be toppled by Bob after he gets food. So if he topples the can before and then enters, what if he sees it topples and sends the pets? So he first enters the yard, puts the food and then topples the can.
Right. No, I'm trying to maintain this property. Then when the can is down, the pets are not there. This is the property which I'm trying to maintain. Okay. So when he topples the can, when the can is down, I mean either the can was already down, it was toppled, then pulling it has no effect. Okay. If it was up, then you topple it, so it's down. Okay. Then he enters the yard, puts the food and comes back. Pets are not there, so this is safe, right? Okay. Now what does Alice do? Okay. Alice, if can is toppled, resets the thing, releases the pet. So now the can is up. Okay. And when the food is consumed, topples the can again. Okay. So can is down implies pets are not there, and can is put up when food is needed, basically. Right. Okay, but there is possibly still a violation of mutual exclusion, which is what if this guy is putting the food, okay, and at that time she comes and does this, right? Maybe you need two cans then. I don't see. Okay. So here is another can. Right. So pull string and topples the empty can. Okay. So there is one can which no, sorry, not empty. Topples. Right. So pets not there, we'll call Pepsi, let's say. Okay. Right. Right. So topples the Pepsi can, then enters there, puts food, comes back, and then at this point topples the Coke can. Right. Okay. So now what does Alice do? Okay. So Alice first makes sure that Alice wants to make sure if Coke can is toppled, so that's the first thing. Okay, then resets it. Okay. If Pepsi can is toppled, resets it. Okay. So Coke signifies that okay. Yeah. So what we have is Pepsi can is down implies pets are not there, and Coke can is down implies there is food in the yard. No, but that we cannot guarantee because the cat and the dog might eat the food. So we can guarantee the other property, which is Coke can is up implies there is no food in the yard. Okay, let's try to do that. Okay, so you first topple the Coke can. So that means there will be food in. Okay, and what will Alice do? If Coke can is toppled, then first she knows that there is now food in the yard. Okay, because the Coke can, no, how will I guarantee that? No, I don't need. Okay, let me do it the other way. There is food in the yard implies Coke can is down. Okay, so whenever there is food in the yard, then Coke can should be down. No, this is also not correct. At least it's correct at this point. Okay. Okay. So we can do this later. Then right. So if the Coke can is toppled, okay. So since the Coke can is now we can use it this way. Coke can is down implies there is food in the yard. If Coke can is toppled, then she knows that there is food in the yard. Okay. So because that's when Bob will set it up. Okay. Then what does she further check? The Pepsi can is, if the Pepsi can is toppled, resets it to warn Bob basically that now don't come into the yard. Okay. Then what comes back now? Then checks when the pets are back. Then she checks whether there is still food left in the bowl or not. If the food is not in the bowl, then she topples which can? She topples the no. Okay. So check comes back if if food is consumed at that point, you want to say that now more food is needed. So in order to say that more food is needed, you reset the Coke can. Okay. That basically says that now there is no food and food is required. Okay. And then comes back and then topples the Pepsi can to say that now the pets are not there. Right. Okay, so you use 2 bits, but the bits have the property that only one process writes them and one process reads them. Okay. Okay, the solution is clear that it works. Okay. It guarantees mutual exclusion, it guarantees deadlock freedom. Starvation freedom, it has the starvation freedom also will guarantee, because they will alternately switch between the cans will switch being up and down, so starvation will also be not happen. Now we consider third problem. So here is Alice and here is Bob. Okay. Now we will consider a solution which you proposed, which is that let us say Alice has a big billboard here. No, one of them. Let us say Bob has a big billboard. Okay, and he has big tiles out here. Okay, so he can put these tiles on the board. Okay, and Alice buys a telescope, and using this by moving this telescope, she can read those tiles one by one. Okay, so they can actually communicate messages to each other. Okay, very primitive communication, but let's assume that this is what we have. Okay. So now the question is, how do you ensure that this thing works? So this problem is called readers writers. Right? You want to actually communicate messages, okay, long messages, bit by bit. Okay, so how do you do that? See, first of all, I want to illustrate that there is a problem, right? For instance, supposing Bob puts up this message, okay. Okay, right, and now Alice starts reading it. Okay, so Alice reads this, 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 Alice reads this. Okay, Alice reads this, Alice reads this. Okay. Okay. So Alice gets a message which actually wasn't there. Probably it will lead to further court arguments between them. But how do you actually communicate a message properly? Okay. So again, you need to set up a protocol to do this. Okay. How do we do this? This is a kind of typical thing which happens in internet, for instance. When you send email, this is the kind of thing which is happening. It's actually it's not that difficult. You just have to use the earlier solutions.
By bits, like he's giving a bit. So when he puts in a bit, only let Alice have a flag. Whenever she reads it, she just puts up the flag. So and then let's say it's the can thing. Whenever she reads it, she'll put up the can, and when he sees that the can is up, then he puts his solution. He puts the next bit there, and he topples the can.
Right.
So if you use that, there's the
Sure.
communication.
Sure. So what you can do is basically you want to, in some sense, you want to communicate sentences, right? Rather than you just don't want to communicate letters, right? So for every sentence, you use the can protocol, right? So once as I am starting a sentence, then so I am ending a sentence, then the next sentence will come. While that can is toppled at that point, Bob will not put up a fresh sentence, right? So this is readers writers, okay, and can be. So what we have observed is that all these problems, they can be solved, but now once you know that they can be solved, you start looking at how efficiently are you solving them, okay? How much space are you using, how much time are you using, and now you start asking, can I do better, right? And then again you have theorems which show that certain things will necessarily require this much space, certain things will necessarily require this much time, okay? and many times that is not good enough. I mean, especially if you are working with a typical modern system where there can be hundreds and thousands of threads, okay, and they can be all communicating. You want very fast response. Okay, so so we'll look at these kind of things in some detail, but what really Leslie Lamport wanted to illustrate with this lecture is first that these are problems, of course, which arise in distributed computing. Okay, then the solutions which he proposes, so these are all distributed solutions. Okay, they are not centralized. Okay, there's nobody acting as an intermediary between Alice and Bob. Okay, so these are distributed solutions to problems which arise in distributed computing, right? And for that, as we saw, sometimes you have to make the solution asymmetric, sometimes you have to do some other trick. Okay, the trick here is that you have to have a shared variable. Okay, you have to use a shared variable, and we do not know how to solve this problem without using a shared variable. Okay, but it seems reasonable that when you want to send something from one person to another, you have to use some shared thing. I mean, you have to use maybe at least a wire. So that's what this thing illustrates. Right? So that's the kind of thing which is set up. The other thing about these solutions, there is a certain property which they have, okay, is that they are self-stabilizing. Okay, meaning you can think of a fault-tolerant solution to this problem. Okay, for example, what will happen if, let's say in the first case, okay, when you have the dog and the cat, okay, so let's say Alice puts up a flag, and then suddenly she falls ill and she's taken to hospital or something like that. Okay, then Bob is just sitting there and waiting, right? And so presumably Bob's dog will become very unhappy okay, and maybe the cat is also taken to the hospital. I don't know what happens to the cat. Anyway, so you can find, you can look for solutions which are self-stabilizing, okay, and which will work even in these kind of weird scenarios which you normally don't expect will happen. Okay, so the study of such self-stabilizing solutions, this was done by Dijkstra again about 1975 or so. Okay, he said that distributed algorithms, in addition to being distributed, they should also attempt to be self-stabilizing, because who knows when there will be some crash between networks or something of that kind. Okay, and he actually gave self-stabilizing solutions, which are of course more complicated than these. They are not as simple as these, but then they have the property of being self-stabilizing. Okay, so they are fault-tolerant solutions to these problems, to these three problems. Dijkstra gave them in this paper of his. Right, these problems he could solve in a self-stabilizing manner. And that's a major topic of research. And actually, when Lamport gave this talk, he said the reason he gave this talk was because in 1984 people had forgotten about Dijkstra's paper, and people kept rediscovering fault tolerance when he says Dijkstra wrote about it 10 years ago. At that point. So he actually gave this talk to tell people that Dijkstra had already solved these problems. Okay, so I have a little time, so let me try and. What about the problems which I gave last time? The cigarette smokers, did anybody try that? I will give you another problem. Okay. So this one is called 100 prisoners and a light bulb. Have you seen this before? Okay. So I shouldn't do it then. Yeah. Have you all seen this before? No. Okay. So then at least let me tell the problem. Okay, so there are some number of prisoners, say P prisoners. Okay, and there is a jailer. Okay, and so here is, so there are 100 cells out here, and there is a yard. Okay, and what the jailer, I mean, every morning all these prisoners are do some, I don't know what prisoners are supposed to do, basically some kind of marching or something they are supposed to do in the yard. They do every morning in the yard. Okay, but the jailer is doesn't like this because they are all the time talking to each other and discussing stuff with each other and not paying much attention to him. Okay, so what the jailer says is so he is very furious and he says, from tomorrow we will have a different protocol. Okay, that there will be none of this communal business in the yard. So here is the jailer. Here is where the jailer's room sits. Jailer sits in this room. Okay, and the important thing about this room is that there is a light bulb. Okay, anyway, so so what the jailer says is, now let's not call this jailer's room. Let's say this is an interrogation room. Okay, and there is a light bulb in it. Okay, and what the jailer says is that from tomorrow I will individually call one of you, okay, at some random time and question you in this thing. Okay, so what I guarantee is that over a sufficiently long period of time, okay, I will call any n of you n number of times. Okay, but I might call the same person 23 times and only then call the second person. So there is no bound, there is no guarantee that I will call, but what the person is saying, if you look sufficiently far into the future, okay, then the n of you will be called to this room n number of times. Okay, so this is the property which the jailer says that. Okay, when you come here to this room, okay, so I will interrogate you, okay, and then you will be taken out, and when you will be taken out, at that time, if you want, you can and you have to decide whether that bulb has to be left on or off. Right, so that person has to decide whether the bulb has to be set on or off, the person who has been called. Okay, and can set the bulb on or off and then they go, or I mean it can be as it was also. There is no necessity that it has to be changed. Okay, so this is all you are allowed to do. Okay, and on any day, okay, on any day, any one of you can say, all of us have been in this room at least once. Okay, If this statement is true, then I will release all of you. Okay, if this statement is false, then I don't know, I will feed you to the crocodiles or something, something drastic basically, right. So you better make this statement only when you are sure that the statement is true. Okay. Okay. So of course this is going to be implemented from tomorrow. So today these guys are all in the yard and they have a chance to talk to each other and come up with a strategy. Okay, a strategy by which they can ensure a release for themselves. Okay, so the question is, what is that strategy? Okay, right. The problem is clear. Any clarifications about the problem? Okay, so far, I mean, I have been just giving you some kind of problems, and we have been looking at how to solve these problems. Okay, but the aim of this course of lectures is to actually look at programs. Okay, so from Monday onwards, we will be actually looking at programs, okay, and trying to analyze them. So we'll try to study them and see what kind of properties they have. So they will be, I mean, I will not look at very complicated programs. Maybe I will look at these problems again. Okay, but we will actually examine those programs and see how they will actually be implemented in some programming language. So I will use, I don't know, Java or C or something like that. So that all of you are familiar with the syntax. Okay, but we will actually look at these programs and try to analyze them and try to come up with how to implement these kind of programming techniques using some real programming language. Okay, so that's the plan for Monday onwards.